all full of authentic points of view. Myself alone have at least 22. They come from the things that we have been through. Those things can either make or break you. Life is full of ups and downs. It's our choice to either smile or frown. Please choose to smile today, because it's one thing that's free to give away. People say that life isn't hard, it's what you make of it. But what if only struggle surrounds you? What can you take from it? Life can be hard and some things aren't fair. Please listen to others just to be aware. All I'm saying, you never know what someone's going through. Just because they look happy doesn't make it true. Hopefully this podcast will help you see you are not alone, you at least got me. We are more alike than you may know, but if we stay quiet, we will never grow. Don't ever give up, because you got this. If you quit, think of all the opportunities that you could miss. Hey everybody, and welcome to Authentic Points of View. I am your host, Danielle Brewer, as always. Woohoo! All right. So I'm excited about today's guest. Everybody laughs when I do that because that's just me. I'm silly. I'm really excited about today's guest because we're going to talk about some fun stuff and some really helpful stuff. And she doesn't know this, but it's going to help me. Selfish, but I'll talk about it. So, Autumn Prather and her daughter Sydney are the CEO founders of the nonprofit The Mother and Daughter Experience, an organization that champions the sacred bond of the mother and daughter relationship. So welcome, Autumn, to the show.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate that. And I just want to say, because my husband may watch this, it's Prather.
Oh, thank you. I usually ask, how do you say it? So I should have asked
Yes,
you. Thank
no
you.
problem. Happy
Hello,
to be
Mr.
here.
Prather. Sorry. Yeah, I always say, and I didn't this time. How do you pronounce your name? I'm so sorry about that.
No
Messing up your name.
problem.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, now, just wondering. This is a question because a lot of things that we do stem from somewhere, of course, obviously.
Mhm.
So, how was the relationship with your mother when you were growing up?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. My mother, the late Mrs. Linda Marie Everett, we could probably be here an hour just talking about her. My mother and I had a wonderful relationship. We were literally best friends.
Oh.
We could talk about anything. We could attend any function together. Of course, when I got of age, we attended a lot of comedy festivals. I remember one time we went to see Cheryl Underwood here
Oh,
in
I love
Nashville.
her.
Oh, but I was so embarrassed because Cheryl's,
Yeah.
her material,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but that was the kind of relationship my mother and I had. We could really
Oh.
bond over those types of things. She raised me, with some very hard core beliefs, in as far as hard work and dedication, family first, community service, all of those things. So I miss her a lot.
Oh, I bet. If you don't mind me asking, how long ago did she pass away? And I'm sorry for
Yeah,
your loss.
thank you. It'll be 14 years this April coming up.
Aw. It's always hard when we lose someone, especially a parent. Blessed that both of my parents are alive, but I lost
Mhm.
my grandma who I lived with a few times. So she was like kind of like a mom to me. And
Yeah.
she was
Oh,
95 when she passed away, so she had a fantastic life. But
hmm.
it's really, you still miss them and the memories and and the chance to make more memories, but yeah, so
Especially during this time. Yeah.
yeah.
The holiday season. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, holidays are rough, but so, did you mimic your mother's parenting style with your own daughter?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'd have to say half and half, maybe.
Okay.
Some of the things that I got from my mom, I definitely poured into my daughter as far as parenting style. My mom was extremely, what do you call it? Um, forthright. She
Oh.
she didn't sugarcoat anything. She was very blunt, very honest. And I wasn't quite that honest and blunt with my daughter. I did a more gentle style, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Um, but my mom, a lot of the things that I vowed not to do with my daughter is is because of some of the things that my mom didn't do with me. So for example, we didn't talk a lot about life and growing up, getting older and boyfriends and marriage and things of that nature. We didn't really get into any of that when I was a teenager. So I said, when I have a daughter, I'm going to make sure to talk about some of the things that deals with life with her,
Right.
especially puberty, menstrual cycles, and all of those types of things. I never got that information from my mom. Funny story. I started my cycle. I don't know how transparent I can get here,
No, go
but
ahead. I was actually going to tell my story too, but go ahead.
I started my cycle right after a New Edition concert back in
Oh,
1986. I remember like it was yesterday because, of course, New Edition was, who didn't love New Edition back
amazing.
in the
Yeah.
day. And I got to go to my first concert, got home and was like, okay, this is a little weird. I don't know what's going on with my body. Told my mom, was like, hey, something's going on down there, and she just looked at me and said, hmm, okay, put this on. Okay, what's this?
Yeah. You're like, why? What's the
Yeah,
purpose
like
of this?
what are we doing here, mom? But that was the extent of it. And I literally had to kind of learn it on my own or, from friends who had already gone through it. I didn't have any older sisters or older cousins that I could really glean from. So, I really had to kind of research, my own puberty era and understand what was going on with my body. And so that was the first thing I said, nope, when I have a daughter, she's going to know about this way in advance. Um, and I held true to that because I started talking about things, life things with her at the tender age of maybe 5 or 6. And so by the time she got 13 and 14, she was very well aware of what was going to happen with her body. So much so that she didn't even tell me when she started. She was like, oh, it's just no big deal. Yeah, I did. And I had my napkins and I put them on and I just went on about my day. I said, okay, but you're supposed to tell me. I mean, you know, like let's share in this thing, So that's my story.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna share mine. Mine's kind of funny. So, my mother and I were never really close, and but I paid attention to stuff. So I was playing football. I was 10 years old. We were outside playing football, and I lived in Germany at the time. So I literally noticed something was weird. I went inside, went to the restroom, grabbed one of her pads, and went back and played football. I never told her that I started, never. So
Oh, wow.
I never did. I didn't feel like I wanted, I don't know. I don't know why. And I kind of feel bad now because it's like she, I don't know. It's just hard because it's like if my daughter did that, I would be really, like you just said, like I would be really upset. But we
Yeah.
just didn't have that relationship. And there was a lot of stuff going on at that point too with my
Hmm.
parents and different things. But so I went and played football again and never, like I said, never told her. And then after a couple days of her seeing it in the trash, she goes, "Hey, you got something to tell me?" And I went, "No, what?" Like I didn't even know what she was talking about. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's just I don't know. And I was so independent. And it's so funny because I'm starting life coaching and it's like I was so fearless back then when I was a kid. And and then I let the outside opinions of people and all this stuff affect
Hmm.
me and
Hmm.
what I did and what I thought of myself. And I
Hmm.
became so fearful of everything. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I mean, I was not scared of anything as a kid. So it's like, it's so funny. Not funny, but to see the transition of like how brave I was and how independent I was to the things that, happened later on, I'm like, oh, but yeah, so
Get that. I get that.
yeah, but okay, so Sydney, is that right? Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
it.
So, okay, how was you and Sydney's relationship when she was growing up then? Other than you said you were talk to her about stuff, but what were you guys as close as you and your mom were?
Yeah, so Sydney and I, we kind of grew up together. I was a single mom when I had her.
Hmm.
And so, it was just kind of me and her, figuring this thing out. And when I became pregnant with her, I took it up on myself. I'm a researcher. I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on with me, before a doctor, before I go to the doctor so that I can be fully present and understand what's going on. And so
Hmm.
I did a lot of research on pregnancy and things to do, things not to do, what to eat, what not to eat, just the whole gamut, because I had made up my mind that, okay, I'm in the situation, not ideal, but I'm going to try to be the best mother that I can be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start now before she's even born, understanding, how to bring her into this world, as healthy as possible. And so um, that's how it started. That's how our bond started, just wanting her to come into the world as healthy as possible. And so when she was born, I had a lot of support from my mom, my grandmother, cousins, friends, sorority sisters. And so the village is what I call them. They were a big help to me. And so just growing up, again, me and her, I was single for the first 7 years of her life. And so everything we did was together.
Yeah.
I know we'll probably talk about my sorority here soon, but she literally came to every sorority meeting with me,
Oh.
every every sorority function. I mean, she was at banquets at 2 years old, learning how to set tables and learning how to eat properly, in a
Oh.
formal setting, because that was my life. And so I looked at it as her being she was in addition to my life. She didn't ever take anything away from it because I still did every single thing that I ever wanted to do. And so we've kept that bond, since before she was born. Now, of course, we talk about those teenage years,
Mm.
14 through 16, 17. It was rough. It was some days where I was like, okay, this is what my mother was talking about. This is karma. I'm getting it back, I think. And so, but still, even through that, we maintained an open line of communication, which I think is key in any mother-daughter relationship. Um, just being honest with each other and respecting each other. And I think that's kind of our uniqueness, is that I allow her to express herself and to be who she is, even if I may interpret it, in a different way. Um, just so she can feel comfortable talking to me, and that trust factor, is there. And so my goal, my one and only goal when she was a baby, was that by the time she got to be legal, of age, that we would be best friends. And she's 23 and we are best friends.
Aw, that's so sweet. That's way different than my situation.
But I'm finding, Danielle, through this nonprofit work, it's we are sort of the rare.
Yeah.
We're sort of the exception in this, and while that's heartbreaking, I do understand. But we do, through our work too, we try to encourage people to mend those bonds if they can, and if not, then prepare the next generation to be better.
Yeah, it's I know I love my mom. We're just different. And so
Mhm.
um she's changed a lot though. I'm proud of her and I've changed a lot in the last couple years. So basically, I tried with my daughter to not have that, but she's around my mom a lot. So she hears things and I'm like, ugh. So my daughter's 9. I have boys that are older. And so my whole goal with her is to not have the relationship that I had with my oldest one, which is like me and my mother's relationship. And he's a boy, but still, I was a single mom for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
so, he's frustrated with me because we moved a couple times from state to state. And it's like, I mean, I can't take back anything that I did. I can
Right.
just be here for him now, and I keep telling him like, "Hey, I love you and I'm sorry, but I can't change it." So so I have gone on this forgiveness journey, and I actually that's what I'm going to be doing in life coaching is one of the things, transformation and forgiveness. So I really have forgave my mother. We're starting to get a better relationship. Like the other day, I went and surprised her and hung out with her and watched a football game, which I really could care less about the football
Mhm.
game. But it was nice. And she said she was like happy that I was there, and that felt really good. And she
Mhm.
was like, "It's my daughter." And I was like, "What?" Like, that's not normal. You know what I'm saying? Usually
Yeah.
she would be like, meh, meh, and critical, but that was really
Yeah.
nice. So I'm starting to see a difference. So that's really awesome. And that's the thing with my daughter is like, I say all the time, I'm like, I refuse for us to have a bad relationship because that's my baby girl. And she's actually spoiled because she's the only one right now because the older ones are
Mhm.
not here. So
Mhm. Mhm.
so I focus a lot on so many things that I didn't have time, unfortunately, for the boys, or didn't have the patience, or I was very young, so I didn't have the knowledge or the understanding. And I have a really good
Yeah.
supportive boyfriend. So he looks at me and he's like, "Don't baby her like you did the boys," which is true. I did. So,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
telling her stuff and making her well aware is helpful. And so we've already talked about the cycles and she hasn't gotten it yet, but I bought her some period panties, that's what they're called, and stuff like that. She already made up a little bag, so she's prepared. So it's really nice to be able to do that. It's like a bonding thing. So
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yay. It's weird because I have boys, but I'm like, I didn't have to do this before. Um
I understand.
so is there anything now that that you wish you would have known when Sydney was little? So about like, you look back and you're like, "Oh, I wish I would have known that." Is there anything that might think would have been helpful if you knew back then?
Hmm. A lot of
Tricky.
things come to mind. Um, I'm gonna answer that question this way.
Okay.
Um, I was not as cautious with my mouth,
Mm.
with saying certain things in her ear space that, pertaining to her biological dad.
Ah,
I I made a lot of comments. I made a lot of, um, mm, I don't know.
I
I don't know.
understand. Been
Yeah.
there,
I
done
mean,
that.
I said a lot of things I should not have said
Right.
in her ear,
Right. When
presence
they're always
when they're
listening.
young, and I can see how, I added to some of that trauma and some of that feeling of abandonment. And I talk about this in my book, by the way,
Yeah.
mental health and putting my daughter in therapy, and all of that. So I wish, I had a little bit more control over my mouth, and what she heard, as far as that's concerned, because, it could have diminished some of that trauma.
I agree with you in my situation. Yeah. So I've done better with so I joke and talk about I have a lot of baby daddies. So I- so my ex-husband is my daughter's father, but not the boy's father. So
Mhm.
fathers, they have different fathers. But I tried to be better with her because again, there's a gap in age. The oldest is 12 years older and then 10 years, and then my bonus son is 7 years 7 years older than her, and then she is you know, okay, she's a baby. So, when we got divorced and we left and I left Ohio to here, it is really hard for her. She's still having a hard time and it's been 5 years. And I have to be very careful because there's so many things that he does that I'm like, what? Still, it's confusing. And so I have to be very careful of how I respond to her. But then I find myself kind of taking up for him and I'm like, well, that's not good either. Like what do you do? Like it's a hard situation
Right,
because
exactly,
I don't want her to
exactly.
feel like she's not loved,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I don't want her to feel like that's acceptable either. Like it's hard. It's like,
It's a hard balance, yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. So who was the inspiration for your nonprofit? Made. I think that's such a clever name. But go ahead. Who was the inspiration? I love names and stuff. Like the why. I'm like, ooh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. So again, another story. Back in 2018, I had an elective hysterectomy. Um, and unfortunately, I developed some life-altering complications.
Oh,
Um, the surgery was fine. The post-op is what, kind of opened my eyes to like, okay, something's not right here. And it was a whole week after my hysterectomy that I
wow.
finally said, okay, something's wrong. We got to go back to the hospital. And it's a good thing that I did because ended up having a umbilical hernia,
Mm,
which I'm told cut off circulation to a part of my bowel. So when they went in to repair the umbilical hernia, they found a section of my bowel had died.
mm,
So it was stuck in there some kind of way. So they had to remove it. They had to cut it out.
mm,
So what we thought was, a normal procedure, go in, have this hysterectomy, be in the hospital for what, maybe 3 days, go home, enjoy your life. It turned around in November, and this is actually 4 years ago. This week is when all of this happened,
wow.
and I was in the hospital a total of 23 days in November
Mm,
in 2018. And so coming out of that was hard, and it really stopped me in my tracks and allowed me to reflect on my life. And my number one question was, Autumn, what are you doing? What is it that you're doing with your life that's going to leave some sort of legacy? Or, what is going to be here after you leave? Those are kind of thoughts that I had during my recovery.
mm,
I mean, granted, I had done some pretty good, cool things in my life. So, I didn't have any regrets up until that point. But that really, the fact that I could have died literally if I had not gone back to that
yes.
hospital that day, because my bowel had been dead for a week.
Mm, mm,
And so, it's just one of those things that I'm here for a reason. I got a second chance. And during my recovery, I was just like, what can I do? What can I do? And it hit me. I said, wow, wait a minute. Me and my mother were supposed to start a business together. We wanted to
aw.
do, um, she wanted to do like a senior residence center.
Mm,
She was a dance instructor here in Nashville for about 40 years. She taught tap and preschool rhythms and senior dance and all of that. And
aw.
so she wanted a whole senior dance center, a senior, like a retirement home. She wanted to run one of those. And I was like, well, I don't know if I got the stamina for that. What else could I do? What else could I do? And it just hit me. I said, well, okay, I can't start a business with my mom. Obviously, she's not here. But maybe I can start one with my daughter.
Aw.
And I was like, okay, so what do we have going on that, could be a viable business, right? I was like, okay, well, we do a lot of mother-daughter things. We talk about mother and daughters a lot. We have a good relationship. It's kind of a legacy thing with um from my mother and how she brought me up. And I was like, okay, it's coming together. It's coming together. And so I called my daughter in. I said, hey, let's just talk about it. Well, what do you think? How does this sound? And we threw out some names. We tossed around some ideas, and we landed on the mother and daughter experience. And at first, it wasn't experience. I think we had something else going on And I said, no, it needs to be an experience because that's what mothers and daughters go through.
Yeah.
Ups and downs, ins and
Yep.
outs, around and around. This is an experience. It's not perfect, you know. So we want to talk about all aspects of this. So Mother and Daughter Experience was born January 9th, 2019.
Oh,
I got well enough to get at a computer and fill out, all the paperwork and get my EIN and get my 501c3 status going. And we put on our first event in June of that year. So
wow.
January to June, we started working and pulling together some resources, and we did our first breakfast, um, the Mother and Daughter Experience. Um, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um, the Mother and Daughter Breakfast Affair and Fundraiser is what it
Mm.
eventually became known as. It was our inaugural breakfast. And so we invited the whole community out. Mothers and daughters, grandmothers, granddaughters, aunts, nieces, godmothers,
Oh,
goddaughters. If you were a woman and you had a hand in raising a young lady, you were welcome. You didn't have to be
awesome.
biologically connected or anything, by blood. Um, and one thing that we have become known for at our breakfasts, because we just completed our fourth one this past August, is we have a cultural event. So it's some sort of artistic expression. Um, so this year we had, it was called The Art of the Matter. So we had artists come in, visual artists. We had a violinist. We had a painter who did a live painting during the event.
Wow.
And we had a Christian tap dance ensemble come in and perform for us. And then during the breakfasts, I like to spotlight a young lady, like as young as 5 up to about 17 years old. We like to spotlight young entrepreneurs. We call it the Yes Spotlight, Young Entrepreneur Spotlight. And so she gets to
Oh,
come up and talk about her business venture, whatever she's got going on and she's selling. And then, of course, I give away some of her items to help her in her business. And then we have a keynote speaker who comes in and talks about the overall theme. And this year's theme was mental health, how to really get back to having that generational and mental health within the mother and daughter relationship. And so we had a licensed clinical social worker to come in and talk about that with our guests. And we had about 100 guests this year.
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we're really proud of that.
Wow.
We're going into our 5th year next year. We're trying to do something a little bigger and a little more celebratory since it's our 5th anniversary. So we'll be rolling that out soon, hopefully.
Wow. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a
Thank
good,
you.
really good turnout. Wow.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, all of our events have been outstanding numbers. Of course, 2020 we had COVID, so we had to go
yeah.
virtual, but it was still a nice response. And to really kind of go back to your initial question, um, that life-changing surgery really was the catalyst. But again, we link everything back to my late mother. So we do it in her honor, and we started a scholarship fund in her honor as well. So we give away funds to local dance companies in the city.
Oh, that's beautiful. How sweet. Oh,
Thank you.
oh, that's so nice. So now if somebody wants to volunteer, I went on your website. If somebody wants to volunteer, do they just go to your website, which will do your links and everything in a little bit, but do they just go on there and
Mhm.
yeah, okay, cool. So,
Yeah, yeah. Just to fill out the contact form. We'll be in touch. I'm all over social media. I can, you can send me a DM, a message, any one of those ways is fine.
awesome. So, okay, I love your names with everything. Yes, okay, I love it. Okay,
I'm an
amazing.
acronym queen.
Yes. Oh, I need to talk to you maybe in a minute about my stuff and see if you can help me with an acronym. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll talk off air. Okay. So girls, this is gonna sound stupid. What is girls? Of course, a girl is a young
Girl.
female. What is we were like, what? You don't know what a girl is. What is
You're right.
girls? And explain what it stands for, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So this came to me. Someone saw me on social media and saw my platform. They saw what we do with our mothers and daughters, and they were like, "Hey, I'd like for you to come into our metro school system and
Oh,
construct a program for our seventh and eighth graders at a local middle school." And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay."
cool.
And so I decided to call it Girls, since it was targeted directly to young females. And it stands for Growing in Respect, Leadership, and Sisterhood. And so those are the three pillars that we discussed during our 13-week intensive. So we started in February, ended in May. I went to a school every single week. And we did activities with journaling, team building, keynote speakers. We even had one-on-one talks about just growing in your relationships with your family, with your friends, with your teachers, respecting one another, being there for your friends when they're down, that sisterhood piece. Community service was a big part of that. And leadership. We want to develop new leaders. We want to develop future leaders. And so we talked about all of that and did activities to strengthen those attributes for those young ladies. And it's so it's so amazing that they'll still contact me to this day. And so, Miss Autumn, what are you doing? Or I saw one at
Oh,
a street festival back in the summer, and we were like, hey, it was just kind of one of those things where they remember me and I remember them. And so hopefully they take, what we learned together on through their life.
oh, that's so sweet. And it's something I want to do, which again I have to like narrow down my niche or like whatever, but I
Yeah.
want to go into schools and talk to people too because of things that I've been through. And like I talked about, like, I witnessed my brother commit suicide on the telephone
Mhm. Oh my.
and just a lot of stuff that I've been through. So I want to talk to the mostly high school age, maybe older
Mhm.
middle school, and even
Mhm.
colleges eventually, and just talk about mindset, forgiveness. You can only control the things that you can control and working on those things and stuff like that. So I think it's so important to talk to young girls. That's so amazing because again, like if we didn't have that and then we just like kind of figured out, oh, your cycle. Okay. Oh, look, there's stuff coming out. Okay. Oh, what do you
Right,
do now?
right.
And so it's good to talk to girls about sisterhood, about like being there, being leaders, of course, not being a follower, like,
Mhm.
all those things. That's amazing. So,
Yeah, especially, I mean, in our school system, unfortunately, you think it's the boys that are doing a lot of the fighting, but it's the girls.
mm, yeah.
And we want to bring those bonds, back to the forefront and say, hey, you are your sister's keeper. Look out for her, help her. We all wear the crown. Sometimes it gets crooked on some people, so
Yeah.
you can straighten it back up. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so competitive, and that's what like
Yeah.
girls are so competitive, and I was too, like physically with sports and stuff, but it's all about, you know, what are you wearing and what is this and what is that or who likes who
Right.
and blah 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 and it's just like instead of like being kind and loving each other, it's just like everything is a competition and
Exactly.
yeah, it's just oy, it's
And
hard.
the social media and
Bah.
reality TV shows don't make it any better. So
Mm-mm. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that when I was
me
younger.
too.
Um, so okay, what is your book called? And then can you just give us a couple of key points out of the book? If you haven't already, you might have already done that, but
Yeah. So my book is called Preparing a Fruitful Harvest, One Mother's Pursuit of Generational Health. And so it basically encompasses my journey in raising my daughter. Remember at the beginning, I told you about me researching everything when I was pregnant.
mm-hmm.
So we start from there. We
Okay.
actually start from that point all the way up until her graduation from high school. Um, well, no, we actually go into the college years too. And so I wrote this book. It was honestly one of those things again. Someone saw me on social media, a publisher. He reached out and said, "Hey, I think you have a message for mothers and daughters, women and
Awesome.
girls." He said, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" I said, "Nope." And this was in, I guess, September of 2020. So
Wow.
COVID, right? Pandemic. We were on lockdown, nothing else to do, right? No, we really couldn't go anywhere. And I had some time, so I started writing this book. And um, it goes, I sectioned it off in seasons. So coming back to my name, Autumn, we go through the winter, the spring, the summer, and then we get to the fall, which is the harvest time. Um, and how we bring all of those factors together of trying to help our young girls be positive, productive, and prepared. I talk about a myriad of things in the book. I talk about self-care for moms. I talk about knowing your mother style, how you know, your parenting style as a mother. I'm a helicopter mom. I hover. I try to control things. And you know, a lot of my readers have discovered that they're helicopter moms too. They just didn't know it. Um, I talk about generational wealth as far as exposing our kids to the financial responsibilities of being an adult, you know, learning the banking system, uh, becoming homeowners, you know, kind of getting into all of that when they're getting older so they can make the right choices. I talk a lot about the village. I mentioned my support system earlier.
Yeah.
Very important to have, you know, like you said, you had a good support system. Um, it's very important to keep mom sane so that she can
Right.
be okay for that for babies. So I talk a lot about that. I talk about mental health and therapy. It's called Therapy is Necessary. You know, in our community, unfortunately, it's taboo to say you're going to therapy. And
Yeah.
why? Because everybody needs help. I mean, it doesn't mean you're crazy. It just means, hey, you want to be better than you are. So
Right.
um, and again, I had to, you know, my daughter and myself have had to go through therapy individually and together. Um, and just a whole bunch of other things. And in the book, what I really like is at the end of each section, there's a journal type of activity where I ask
Hmm.
questions about what the topics were about and how they relate to your situation and what you can do to better your relationship with your daughter. One of the chapters in there talks about um, the ABCs of motherhood. So we talk
Hmm.
about A, accentuating your positives, B, being your own advocate, C, I can't remember. See, I'm messing up already. And then
No,
D,
you're not.
something
Nuh-uh.
else.
You're good.
So we have to get the book to see. But yeah, it just breaks it down
Yeah.
on how you can be, you know, the ABCs of motherhood, just how you can be a better mom, just from my point of view. Obviously, I'm not, you know, a doctor or anything. So this is just all my personal experiences. But what I've learned is you are an expert in your own personal experience. So nobody can take that away from you.
Absolutely. And everybody learns a different way as well. Like
Mhm.
you you learn, and sometimes we do that. Like there's some things, no offense to my mother, that I definitely don't want to do that she did. Just like you said, like, or and there's stuff that, I wish I did like her. Like she's way more organized than I am. She's on time all the time. Stuff like that.
Mhm.
Then I'm like, "Ooh, I need to work towards that." So, I mean, it's everybody has a different style and then you can adapt and adjust. Like you don't have to be, the
Exactly.
whole 18 years do it the same way. Like
Exactly. Oh,
learn
it,
and
it
grow.
requires
Oh yeah.
levels
Yeah.
and fire higher accordingly, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so we talked about how the sorority helped you with they were your village part of it, but
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
did it help you in business wise, like learn how to run a business? Because sororities are so structured, and of course
Mhm.
the sisterhood, but it's also very structured. So does that help you in your business?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I look at my experience in the sorority as my springboard. This is where I started to practice public speaking and leading others and delegating responsibilities and getting constructive criticism and feedback. All of that is so necessary in running a business, right? And so, and I encourage my girls who are just coming into the sorority, use this platform as your testing grounds. I mean, we're sisters. We're gonna support you. We're gonna be here for you. We're gonna tell you what you need to do. And so I can't say enough about Alpha Kappa Alpha and the opportunities they've afforded me. I mean, I've traveled because of them. I've got to see new things. I've got to intermingle with different cultures and just come together with different people and learn different personalities and interact with all of that. And so it's been a blessing. I've been in the sorority now 27 years.
Wow.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's so awesome. I did not go to a typical college. I had kids young, and so I went to a technical school for nursing. So I
Mhm.
didn't get to have that experience, but I was a single mom, so I really didn't have time to had two kids. But yeah, that's really cool. When I look back, I'm like, that would have been a really good experience, but my life went how it went. I'm happy with,
Oh yeah.
so, but that's really cool. Now, you went to HBCU. So this is
Mhm.
going to sound silly because I obviously know what it is and you know what it is, but there's listeners in different countries. So can you explain like what's HBCU? What does it mean? What is
Mhm.
a HBCU? And what was your favorite thing about going to one?
Oh wow. Best 4 years of my life. HBCU, it stands for Historically Black College and University.
Mhm.
So these institutions were founded uh, primarily for African American students. A lot of these particular schools received land grants back in the early 1900s, so not too long after slavery was abolished, um, to educate African American students. And in Nashville, particularly, we have four
Wow.
HBCUs. We have Tennessee State University, which is my alma mater. We have Fisk University. We have American Baptist College. And we have, oh my God,
It's okay.
why did I just go blank? Meharry Medical College. Whew.
Oh,
I hope none of my people see this because they're gonna be like, you what? You forgot Meharry Medical College. Yes, yes, yes. So the HBCUs in Nashville are so um they're all close knit. We
hmm
all collaborate together, with different resources and coming together doing a lot of community things. So I love that aspect of HBCUs here in Nashville. But Tennessee State University in general, again, best 4 years of my life. I got to be a part of Black excellence. I'm just gonna say that I had never seen so many smart, intelligent, outspoken um, Black people in all my life. I mean, of course, I went to a high school that was predominantly Black, but to be in community college is a little bit more freer, right? You're a bit more free, and you're interacting with different people, but to just see different cultures and different people from the North, New York and Chicago and Detroit, come down to the South and learn our way. It was so fun. And during my college years, I got to be a part of one of the greatest bands in the world, the
oh,
Tennessee State University Aristocrata bands. I was head majorette. And so that was a lot of fun.
awesome.
Again, leadership, taking my leadership skills onto the dance floor. Um, and of course, I pledged the sorority. And so being in that environment was just hands down the greatest gift I could ever receive, because it prepared me. It prepared me for um, life outside of college in corporate America. Again, it just teaches you how to interact with people. And it also gives you that big confidence booster. You know, it's nothing like having a professor who's really in your corner and who's really pushing you to do the very best that you can do. So that's what I love most about the HBCU experience. And I want to say this, through my sorority, um, I was a part of the International HBCU Task Force Committee. Our immediate past international president, Dr. Glenda Glover, who's also the president of Tennessee State University.
Oh, wow.
She had a wonderful initiative for 4 years that we raised $1 million every single year for 4 years, actually over $1 million
Wow.
in one day. In one day. So I was over the task
In one
force
day. Oh
in one day.
my
I was a
gosh.
I was a part of the task force that led that mission to raise $1 million in one day for 4 years straight. And so we were able to award each HBCU in the country, 104, plus the U.S. Virgin Islands. We were able to award
Wow.
endowment scholarships to each of those HBCUs around the country. So we were very, very proud of that.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that. Yay. That's so amazing.
Thank
So,
you.
um, what a community really that it is.
Mhm.
I love, oh my gosh. I love when they scream out HU and they argue. Is it Howard or is it yeah, like I love it.
Hampton,
Like
the
is it
real
Hampton or is
HU.
it how yeah,
Yes,
who's the real one?
yes,
It is so funny. So anyways,
yeah.
I love that. And so I grew up in the Maryland area in DC and stuff. So, I have my opinion. I'm just joking. I don't count. But my friends went to Morgan State and Bowie State, and I love their schools. And I got to go to their orientation, which was amazing. And I was young. I don't know why I was there, but it was fun.
Mhm,
And my it was really cool. My ex-mother-in-law, she went to Bethune-Cookman, and it's something that I've never forgotten. And so
mhm.
we've been divorced, but we were in Florida, and we literally accidentally drove past it. I didn't know where it was in Florida. I knew it was in Florida, and I got so excited. And
Mhm.
I wanted my daughter to experience it. So we literally I said, "You have to take a picture here. This is your grandmother's school. You have to." So we
Mhm.
we drove
Mhm.
around the town and we went back, and then she took a picture there, and it was such a beautiful experience, like, to be part of and be like, "That's the history," you know what I'm saying? And I sent it to my ex-husband, and he sent it to her, and she was so happy, and she put it on Facebook, and so
Oh
it
yeah.
was so sweet to see how excited she was to,
Mhm.
and she's so proud of her school too. Which
Oh,
I
yeah.
it's so amazing. Like, she's learned so much. She taught me a lot from what she learned in the community and the support and the, like you said, sisterhood and all the stuff. So,
Mhm.
um, what is your advice for somebody? This is off. Now we're not talking about HBCUs anymore, but sorry, go to the left. What is your advice for someone that wants to have a better relationship with their mother or daughter or vice versa? Either one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think first of all, as it pertains to your mother, let's start there. I think that daughters should realize that mom is human, first of all. I know that they think we're superheroes and we can cure everything and we know the answers to everything, but we don't. We're just a
Right.
human. We're just human. We're just like anybody else. We make mistakes. We say things that we shouldn't say. We do things we shouldn't do. We are only as good as our environment and our upbringing afforded us to be. We
Right.
only can do what we knew to do. So I think it starts there with an understanding, um, first and foremost, that your mom probably was doing the very best she could with what she had and what she had knowledge of at the time.
Right.
We're living in very different times these days. And so I like to start there. And so hopefully some grace can be extended to mom in that, aspect. Now, of course, I'm not talking about somebody who has abused their
Right.
child or, it's so far beyond, a conversation and all of that. So, but I think for a daughter, for a mom to kind of mend that relationship with her daughter, understand that she's just a little you. She's just a little bit you. Um, and again, that understanding and that grace to say, I probably was like that as a kid or as a teenager. So let me just take a step back and look at it from her perspective. And let's just try to get on at least, the same page with respecting each other. However that looks to you and your family. There's no right or wrong way in a family. It's what you decide is right for you. It's probably not going to look like what your friends look like or your, cousins or anything. It's what you decide. Um, and as long as it's healthy for you and it keeps you guys moving forward, then keep doing it. Nobody can judge you for that. And so I always say start today. We can't do anything about yesterday. So if you want to mend it, start today. Start from this day forward, working on it. And then use, and so one of the ways we market our breakfasts, our mother-daughter breakfasts, is by saying, come to our breakfast. Start there.
Nice.
Y'all don't even have to come together, but
Yeah.
just come.
Drive separate. Just show up.
Drive
Sit
separate,
at the same
but
place.
just show up because we guarantee something may be said or done that just puts that little birdie in your ear and that little thought in your mind and says, well, even if we just were cordial to each other today, that's a start, right?
Oh,
That's a
that's
start.
really nice.
And then for the daughters, so okay, my mother and I had a great relationship. My daughter and I, we have a good relationship. Do I want my daughter and her daughter to have a great relationship? I sure do. But it's going to take intentionality. It's going to take work. It's going to
Yeah.
take pushing the agenda to have that generational health. And you have to know that it's not going to just happen. It's not a magical thing. You can't wave a wand and it's going to happen, but you have to make it work and decide that that's what you want. So yeah, I think that's the advice that I would give. I know it's not easy. I know it's not perfect. It's extremely hard. I get it. But you have to make up in your mind that that's what you want.
Yeah, true. And being on the same page, you're right, is very important. So that was great advice. Thank you so much. So Autumn Prather, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on and speaking to us. I really appreciate it. I love your energy. You have great energy. And
Thank you.
I love all the things that you have accomplished and all the awesome things we got to talk about. So fun. I don't think I've ever talked about HBCUs yet. So I'm excited because there's some stuff I talk about a lot of times and some stuff I'm like, woohoo. I've talked to a lot of people that have gone to them, but I've never asked. I know you're the first person I asked about it. So, okay.
Oh, well, I feel honored.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yay. So, I'm really excited that you were part of the task force. That's cool. And all the things that you've done. Like I said, it's just so unique and it makes you who you are and speaking to people and helping and making a difference is something that I think we should all do, like I mean, we all have a
Mhm.
purpose and I'm glad you're alive and I'm glad that that didn't kill you. And I work in a recovery room, so when you were talking, I was like, "Oh, no." Like, it's scary. I mean, it's scary. It's stuff we
Yes,
have to look for
very.
because it can happen right away, but the fact that it was a week later, oh my gosh.
Yes,
But
yes.
thank goodness that you're here and you have a mission and a purpose and thank you for sharing it with us. And I'll definitely keep in touch, and I want to ask you off air about the acronym, but
Yeah.
where
Happy
can
to
we find
help.
you? What's your website or whatever?
Yes, absolutely. So, www.themotheranddaughterexperience.com. That's where you can find me. You can get the book there. You
Okay.
can also visit my landing page under We Speak Legacy. I have a professional speaking organization where I design and deliver keynote speeches to big corporate events or small intimate gatherings. So if you need a keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, hit me up. You can find me at that website address as well. I'm on social media, Autumn Prather on Facebook, We Speak Legacy on, I'm sorry, that's my website, We Speak Legacy. Speak Legacy to Me on Instagram. And then the Mother and Daughter Experience also on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, that's so great that you're juggling all these hats because it's difficult. I'm just saying, I'm just starting to do speaking and starting to I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a lot. But that's
When
awesome.
it's your passion, it's not work. That's what I feel.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
me building it is hard, building a foundation and getting it started is the hard part for me right now
Hmm.
because nobody knows who I am and I have to get my, what I'm saying, like,
Oh
and
yeah.
and starting my program and all that stuff, like designing it. I know what I
Hmm.
want to do, but putting it there and making it to make sense, that's the hard part. Well, once I get doing, like, I love talking to people. I love doing the interviews, but the editing, what I'm saying? Like, that's not
Right,
the fair part.
right.
So yeah, so there's things that, goods and bad. But yeah, so absolutely. But I think that's really awesome that you're doing all these things. And maybe you can come on next season and talk about all the other stuff. And then hopefully Sydney can come and you guys can come talk together and
Yes,
that would be cool.
absolutely.
All right. Well,
I
thank
would
you
love
so
that.
Yes, me too. That would be cool to hear from both of you and her perspective as well.
Oh yeah.
And so it's cool to hear like how if she talked about, not saying it's all about talking about you good, but if she said like awesome things about you, that would make you feel good as a parent. Cause sometimes we're like, are we doing the right thing?
Right. It's
Yeah.
such a thankless job. I get it.
Oh, I understand. Yes, I agree.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You have a great night. Thanks for talking to us. You've been awesome. And thanks for the
Thank
information.
you. I
No,
appreciate the opportunity, Danielle. Thank you so
of
much.
course. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Authentic Points of View podcast. I hope that something you heard today changes your point of view. If you would like to share your views, please email me at authenticpointsofview@gmail.com or leave a comment on Facebook at Authentic Points of View podcast. Remember, always be mindful of other people's journeys and have open ears and an open heart.